So I just watched Mark Zuckerberg dressed as Steve Jobs addressing people on Facebook Connect. I watched all 1.5 hours of his presentation on the Metaverse, how they're rebranding to Meta and what the Metaverse will mean for the future of the world. And I am both intrigued, a little excited, but mostly horrified. And I want to give my thoughts on this. And I do have experience working in VR, working in 3D printing. I have a background in psychology, and I do have an MBA. So I feel like I'm fit to talk about this topic. I'm just going to give my thoughts. The format of this video is going to be different. Usually I do a bunch of stock stuff. Here, I'm just going to ramble on, and I don't even want to edit it. And I want you guys to please share in the comment section what your thought is on what I'm about to say. So first of all, Facebook rebranding to Meta is absolutely hilarious to me, because if you're an NBA fan, that reminds me of when Ron Artest went into the stands, started punching fans. Some of them actually, in my opinion, deserved it. And afterwards, he got in a lot of trouble, and he said, guys, I'm no longer Ron Artest. I am Meta World Peace. And this kind of seems like a little bit what Facebook is doing, because they've been marred in so much controversy and everything else. And they say, guys, it's all right. We are now Meta. So let's talk about the Metaverse and what it is. So they're basically creating a 3D immersive world where you can operate, where you can live, where you can attend concerts, where you can connect with everyone from all over the world. And by the way, I do want to preface this video by saying that I'm not one of these people that are like, Facebook is evil and Mark Zuckerberg should be in jail. I'm not one of these people. I'm very pro-business, and I see Facebook as a business. I don't see them as an ethical entity. But I have to say, during quarantine, Facebook has done a lot for small businesses like mine to remain relevant, to be able to communicate with our customer base. And they actually spend a lot in a lot of countries so that people have access to Facebook. You have to realize a lot of countries, the only thing they have is Facebook, and that's their source of news and everything else, for better or for worse. Now, an interesting thing is, and I mentioned this in one of my other videos, so it's interesting to see it really come to fruition, is when I was getting my MBA at Montclair State, one of the vice presidents of Facebook showed up, and she was talking to our class about a lot of the different aspects of Facebook, the business model, what it took to grow, what it took to make it in the real world, in the business world. And one of the things she said is that they're doing heavy research and a lot of R&D and a lot of funding towards VR, and to be on the lookout. She was dropping hints that Facebook is going to be a player in the virtual reality space. And it looks like not only will they be a player, but it looks like they're taking the lead here. And again, I'm going to sound some serious alarms during this video on my take, because honestly, they argue that screens can't convey what the next level of the internet can, which is the metaverse. But when I hear that, I think of brain health, I think of mental health, I think of people with predisposed genetic conditions for mental health or psychiatric disorders that can be triggered by certain things. And I just think to myself, personally, I work a lot in front of a screen and I hate it. I'm good at it. I'm a web developer during the day. I'm a photographer, videographer at night. So I do a lot of editing. I have to post a lot on social media. I have to answer a lot of messages throughout the day. And so I get a lot of screen time. And I have to tell you guys, when I'm at the computer 5-6 hours at a time, I want to scream. I feel more depressed. I feel dumbed down. I feel emotionally blunted. I feel really weird, and I hate it. And that's why if you follow the Instagram, I'm heavy into dance. After work, I flip my hat backwards and I go out dancing. I go out into the real world. I go for walks. I go for hikes. But the amount of computer time I have is a lot, and I feel like it is mushing my brain. So the idea that now, instead of living in the real life, we are just going to be going into this metaverse and interacting over there is a scary thought to me. And I really hope that somebody does research on what that can mean for brain health, mental health. We don't want something where the metaverse comes out and people are integrating on it, and then years from then we find out that all these kids are committing suicide or having depression and anxiety because of the effects that the virtual reality world can have. And the other thing that makes me think is he spoke about the avatar. So the way we're gonna be interacting in this metaverse is through an avatar that we get to create of ourselves. And this makes me think, so way back in the day, and I studied a lot of these disorders when I was getting my bachelor's degree in psychology, but my first job, and I don't look like it, but I was a personal trainer for many years. Going back from like 19 to 24 years old, I was licensed through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And I did not have a single client, men or women, that didn't have major body image issues. Everything from body dysmorphia, unhealthy eating habits, to even things like anorexia and bulimia. And so it makes me think that I can think right now of 3 girls that I know that are afraid to operate in the real world and to go out socially because they can't live up to the image they created of themselves on Facebook and Instagram. They get anxiety. They feel like they're going to be found out who they really are and what they really look like. So they would rather keep their Facebook and Instagram image legit and very ideal and then suffer on the inside, which is scary. So now imagine these young girls, these guys creating avatars of themselves and then going and interacting in this virtual world with their friends. And then all of a sudden, they have to be seen in real life and they can't live up to that cool version of themselves that they created in this metaverse. So again, some of this might sound ridiculous, but this is just some of the thoughts that I had watching this video. And again, this is opinionated. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm obviously not a mental health expert, but it's just some things that I'm thinking about. The other one that came to mind is the stunting of creativity. Because although we'll cover all the positives that the metaverse can enhance in people's lives, we have to realize that a lot of creativity is taken away. So for instance, when you're reading a book, when you go and you start reading a book and you're developing the characters in your mind, so all you're looking at is text. But in your mind, you are imagining these characters. You're imagining them interacting with other characters. And so you build this story in your mind as you read. And we do this type of exercise all throughout our lives when we're interacting in the real world. However, the virtual world would kind of stunt that. It would take that creativity away because it would show us what we're supposed to think and imagine. It would already show us that. But it would open up another type of creativity where we can go and build out whatever we please, because the virtual world, it can technically be infinite with infinite possibilities for everything really. And so people can get really creative with it. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is Horizon, which you should definitely Google and search. That's going to be their social platform to interact with the metaverse. But now I have a serious question, and it's a little bit of an alarming one, so just bear with me. What happens, let's say cyberbullying, right? You're bullying someone online, like you can get blocked and stuff. But what happens in the metaverse when you start bullying? What happens if you go and you violate someone? So let's say you are going to a concert with your friends and everything, and all of a sudden you decide to run up on stage and assault someone or rip someone's top off or do something crazy. Is there a metaverse prison? Are we going to face actual real life consequences? Will they be Facebook courts? Will they be like virtual reality codes of conduct that you could get punished for in real life? This is all important to think about. It makes me think of Grand Theft Auto way back in the day, because remember, the metaverse, it's going to be huge for gaming. The immersive experience is going to be so rich. And so it's going to be very interesting to see, because I remember when I was growing up, this was like middle school, elementary school, Grand Theft Auto was out and it was so exciting to play, but you would get positive reinforcement for doing the wrong things, beating someone up, stealing someone's car, slashing someone with a knife, and you would get rewarded for it. And so a lot of like violence during that time was being blamed on this Grand Theft Auto video game. But the argument was, guys, it's just a video game. Like, you have to be able to realize the difference, and you shouldn't outlaw things just because you can't handle them. It's just a video game. And I kind of agreed with that, because it's on a TV screen and you have a controller and you're playing a video game. Now, sure, you can, it's kind of closer to reality than just reading about it, but it's still a video game. But if we're going into an immersive world where you can barely tell the difference, I mean, I sometimes have really vivid dreams, and I'm sure you have as well, where you have this vivid dream of something happening and you wake up and then you're like, wait, did that happen in real life or did that happen in my dream? Because when something is a real experience in your mind, then your mind doesn't really know the difference between reality and imagination. And if this metaverse is going to be very close to reality, then that could be a little bit scary, because what happens when you play these video games where you get points when you kill people or shoot people or damage things? And then in real life, you are already used to getting positive reinforcement in something that felt like real life in a virtual world, but now you're operating in the real world, and then you're standing in line at the grocery store and the guy in front of you like curses you off or something, and you just get this urge to retaliate the same way you would in a video game. So this is something to keep in mind. And again, I know some of this is outlandish and it's just my thoughts, and please comment yours in the comment section, but I want to cover some other things, and then I do want to talk about the positives of virtual reality and what the metaverse can mean for the world and how it can enhance it. So let's now talk about social skills. I don't know about you guys, but when we were forced to be in quarantine and then we were let out, I was really socially inept. It took me a little bit, and I'm considered, an ambivert. I could be extroverted. I could be good in a social setting. I don't get anxiety. I don't need to drink in order to have conversations or to talk to girls or anything like that. But for me, it was really, really awkward and weird because I didn't have that practice. And so it begs the question of what's going to happen to the social skills when people are just interacting on this new internet, the metaverse. I don't think it's going to help. I don't think it's going to help relationships in real life, having an ability to hold a conversation with the opposite sex, dating life. I don't think it's going to be healthy for giving presentations at work. I think that we are going to be social skilled stunted when it comes to the metaverse. And then the other thing I want to talk about is this utopia and the motivation. Is this new metaverse, the metaverse economy, gonna stunt motivation in the real world? Because if you think about it, a lot of the things that we do, it is motivated by getting rewarded in real life. I don't like to exercise, but I try to exercise with the hope that I can one day put on muscle or look lean, and so I can be seen as attractive, or I could be given maybe compliments here or there. Or I could just feel confident in myself, knowing that I look good, I look strong, right? But if we are starting to spend our lives in the metaverse, then what is the point of me keeping up my looks, or me grooming myself, or me remaining healthy? Like, who cares if I just eat the wrong things, I get fat, my cholesterol goes up? Who cares? I could still sit in a chair, put on goggles, and then be in this virtual world. And it doesn't matter if I can't play sports anymore, if I'm losing my range of motion, because in the virtual world, I can do all those things. And so I don't need to worry about it in real life. And this is a real concern. It's like, it almost can be kind of like an addiction where someone tries like something and then they're chasing the dragon for the rest of their life. And this can also be an addiction. And I also, just because there are, people under 18 that follow this channel, I don't want to talk about it too much, but you can also imagine the implications of intimacy when it comes to the virtual world. What is to stop someone from recreating an avatar of, let's say, the opposite sex? Maybe not even in the metaverse. I'm sure that won't be allowed. Again, they're going to have some sort of ad revenue. There's going to be a metaverse economy where businesses are, advertising on billboards, or you see people dressed a certain way and then you could go ahead and go and buy these things. So I think it will, for the most part, especially in the beginning, be ethical, moral, and somewhat kosher. But what's to stop in other virtual reality worlds of, let's say, I like a girl, and I go and I recreate an avatar of her. So I import the image, and through her dimensions and whatever I put in, there's an avatar created of her. And then I can go and have intimacy with her. And that can be really, really awkward, really weird, and that cannot sit well with people. But that is a possibility of something that can occur in a metaverse type environment. And so again, I know it's odd to talk about and I don't want to get more detailed into it, but you could see the weird implications that can come from that. So now let's talk about some of the positives that I heard from Mark Zuckerberg's presentation, but also some that I'm just thinking of as far as what the metaverse can do to enhance our lives, to enhance education, to bring new jobs. It's actually good for the economy because there's a lot of tech jobs, STEM jobs that are needed to recreate this virtual world, to be able to operate in it, to make sure that it does feel like the real world. There's going to be so much code there, so much design work, so much 3D work that goes into creating an environment like that. And so many people will have these jobs, and they'll likely be high-paying jobs. The other thing is education. Everyone knows that education can be so boring. Right now, people watch a lot of tutorials on YouTube because it's kind of less boring, right? You kind of feel like you're interacting with someone, someone's talking to you, you're not just looking at a chalkboard with a boring professor. So education can get really cool where it could be an immersive experience. So if people are talking about a war or they're describing some architectural concept or something difficult to understand, you can put on these goggles and it could guide you through it so that you have a more better understanding of it in a more interesting way that captures your imagination and has retention in your memory about what they're talking about, because it's so unique and creative the way they're explaining it that you're able to connect the dots better and understand the concept. Now, the other way that I see VR, AR be really, really helpful is overcoming fears. Imagine this. Imagine someone who's horrified of dogs. They get so scared that they just get panic attacks when they see a dog. Now imagine with your therapist, you can have goggles and you can interact with a puppy. And then you can graduate to interacting with a bigger dog and then a bulldog, and nothing bad is happening. And in your mind, you are desensitizing yourself to this invalid response, to this overreaction to a stimuli that doesn't really warrant it. So I see it as good for overcoming fears. Even something like scared of heights, you can go and you could climb the stairs and you could look over the ledge in this VR world, in the metaverse, and just slowly breathe, do breathing techniques, look over the ledge, and be less alarmed and less hysterical when you are seeing something that looks like it's high because you're scared of heights. So there's a way to really give habituation and desensitization a play for overcoming fears in the virtual reality world. Now, another thing is when you are training someone to be a soldier or a really, really dangerous environment, like police training, and God knows we need police training and better police training in this country. So you can do something where you could do simulations of like a certain thing occurring, and in the virtual reality world, you are responding to it. And then your superiors can give you really good advice based on your reactions or what they're seeing. And this way you're not accidentally, shooting the wrong person in real life, but you're doing it during a simulation. The other thing is architects, engineers, they can build out something in the virtual world, even seamstresses creating a dress or something like that. And you could see exactly what it looks like, and it's cheap. Like, let's say an architect wants to build something out, and there will be so much mathematics and advanced stuff in the metaverse that you'll be able to really actually build a structure. You'll be able to see pressure points and how it can withstand the elements. And so there's a lot of ways to use this in various industries. Another one might be surgical simulations. So let's say you're trying to be a cardiothoracic surgeon, and rather than practice on real people and potentially kill people, you can practice as much as you want in the virtual world. And again, the doctors that are superior to you, that are overseeing it, they can go and give you advice, and they could see how you handle these situations under stress. And it's just that next level. It's like almost reality. And so you're able to practice so that when you're doing it in real life, hopefully you're saving lives and you're not needlessly injuring or hurting people. And so these are just some of the ways that actually VR and the metaverse, this immersive world that Zuckerberg talks about and Facebook talk about, can be great. But then the question arises, who runs the show? Who runs the show of the metaverse? So the metaverse is Facebook, obviously, or now Meta. But let's say the other immersive VR worlds. Who is running the show there? Is it Disney? Is it going to be Google? There's going to be various metaverses. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this all develops, how people adapt to it. I cannot see this enhancing brain function. I really, really am worried about how this will affect various mental disorders, how this will affect even sleep. I mean, the brain is not used to this stuff. And basically what Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg are trying to do, rather than be like Elon Musk and implant a chip into person's brains, they're just like, oh, we don't need to do that. We're just going to take your brain and we're just going to put it in our system. So it can get very, very dicey. And it reminds me of the whole thing of like Morpheus from The Matrix, where he's like, you take the blue pill, you take the red pill. And so I think with due time, we are really going to see how deep this virtual reality rabbit hole goes, and if it is enhancing society or if nefarious sources get their hands on some of this technology and it's actually infringing on people's happiness, on people's rights, and it is detrimental to society. So the question is the metaverse going to help us or destroy us? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.